All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella show. And I'm excited for our guest today, Nichole Eaton. I'm so excited to have you here. You are a two-time author. You are a manifesting expert. You're an intuitive therapist, doing all the things. And we were connected by our mutual really good friend, Justin Shank, who we were just chatting before we started the recording here. Always just knows how to connect the best people. So shout out to shout out to Justin. And I'm just so glad that I now know who you are and have been able to go kind of through your work. And it's incredible to like connect with like-minded people who the things that you're super passionate about are also changing their life and making an impact on their life and just all the good things. So welcome to the show, Nichole. I'm really excited to have you here and jump into this conversation.
Sarah, this is going to be the best. I'm telling you, into your stuff, and I'm like, we're gonna vibe. We're gonna vibe so hard, and it's going to be so good for everybody listening too.
Amen
That's
to that. Amen to that. And so there's so many different things that I want to get into, but obviously you believe in manifesting.
yeah.
And anyone who knows me knows that that is like my passion point number one. It's kind of what got me started on this entire journey 15 years ago, and it is what powers the journey now. So I would love to know just as we kind of get started and get to know you a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, but also like how did manifesting play a role in your story and in how you got to where you're at right now as top podcast host and author and therapist and all the things that you do?
That's such a great question. I feel like when you start to learn about manifesting, then you see it, then you notice it. And then when you start to see it and notice it, then you can do something with it. And so I'm an intuitive therapist. I have the Rock Your Comeback podcast, which we just hit top 5% globally.
Amazing.
I know, I'm so excited. And my life has changed and I've been able to impact so many women, but I didn't come at that from a place of empowerment originally. And that's what I really want people to hear when they're listening is if you're stuck in the mud, if you're trying to find your way up, that I anticipate Sarah didn't
Yeah,
start at the
exactly.
top, and neither did I. And so I started as a borderline teen mom. I had my daughter when I was 20. And I was still going to school for psychology. I am a by degree mental health counselor. And so I was going to school and I'm learning about mental health counseling. I'm having a child super young.
Yeah.
And I was just in this crazy state of postpartum depression.
Mm.
And on top of that, me and my husband, we were married already. We got married at 19. We were living together, but we were so broke. I don't know if you've ever paid for daycare.
Yes.
Um,
Right. It's a
Holy hell.
mortgage.
And so, I'm going to school full time. He's working a commission-based job, and we couldn't keep the lights on.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep the lights on. We had this bat situation. I don't know if you know anything about bats, but you can't actually get rid of them in New York State.
Oh my God.
You have to create this filter to shoo them out, basically, because
Oh
they're
my
in.
God.
And it was like, I think it was like $7,000 to get this filter.
Jesus.
So we were just like, okay, they're now our friends. They're now our pets. They know
Right? We're just embracing it.
we were just living in this insane situation that was really perverse and full of lack and scarcity. And I'm going to school for counseling, so I know the power of the mind. But it wasn't until somebody gave me the secret that I started thinking about, okay, so there's mind power and then there's energy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just matter what I think because it's nice to think it, but because it's sending signals out to the universe and drawing that back to me. And so when I started, in my thing is like, I'm a skeptic at heart with
Yeah, I am
everything.
too. I am too. I'm like, I'm gonna try this and either prove it right or wrong. Like it could go either way. That's how I started
Well,
too.
yeah. And so I think it's good to be skeptical. And I think it's good if somebody's listening to the podcast, like, yeah, I'm sure this was just luck or
Yeah.
coincidence or whatever. And so I think that that's normal to have that healthy dose of curiosity and a healthy dose of skepticism. And that's where I was. I was like, okay, I'm in hell. This
Yep.
is rough. This is challenging. I don't know how to find a way out. Like, we're not making enough money for me to find a way out right now. And so when I'm reading The Secret, I'm curious. And I think curiosity is one of the most underrated tools for changing
Amen.
your entire life. I think that if you can
Amen.
start to get curious about, I don't it's almost like instead of deciding that this is just how it is, like, what if it could be different?
Amen. Amen. Absolutely. Like ask questions. Ask questions. Curiosity, you're so right. Most people are not curious, and it's incredible what happens when you start to just ask questions like, well, what if? Yeah.
I wrote an entire chapter in my latest book, Rock Your Comeback, about what if formations. Like, we
Mm,
don't have to believe something better, but we can be curious about if it, what would happen if it could.
yeah.
And so even though I couldn't find like the best feeling or the best thought, I was curious. And because I was curious, I was open. And because I
Mm,
was open, I started to see shifts. Now, when you look and hear about a lot of manifestation stories, and I'm telling you, I've had things just drop in out of thin air. So that can happen. That's real. What that more looked like for me, and I like to point out for people, is that it was really small shifts that made a massive difference. So the
yeah.
first shift was my daughter was on a wait list for free daycare for like a, state program or whatever. And it was like March or April at this point. And I had been working on just being curious about like
Yep.
how we could, bring in more money. And she was put off the wait list and we were able to get her in and that saved
It's
money on day.
amazing.
My husband was working selling mattresses. He was selling mattresses, commission only job, was working like 10 hours a day at a commission only job selling mattresses. And some guy came in to buy a mattress and was like, "You're really good at this. Would you like to come work for me?" And he got an opportunity with a job that ended up paying more money. So
Wow. Yep. Yep.
it wasn't these big, crazy aha moments or things falling from the sky. It was these tiny micro shifts in my environment that freed up enough money. And I think truly freed up enough energy for me to start believing, like, wait a second, there's something to
Something's
this.
going on here. I
Magic in the wind.
Yes, I love everything about your story. And my listeners, I'm sure know most of my origin story, but there is so much synchronicity in my origin story. Like it'll creep you out when I'm on your podcast and share the whole thing because you're like, this sounds a little too familiar. But yeah, mine started with poverty. Mine started with literally not having the formula and diapers I needed to take care of my three kids. But then my manifesting journey was very similar. On the day of my biggest rock bottom moment, I had this so clear thought that was like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then I had this moment of like, what if you can? And so for me, it's so funny that you say that. The two words what if are super, super powerful for me. They dug me out of a hole. They have like literally helped me create everything I've created because if you're using them in a positive way, they help you answer the questions you're looking for answers for. If you start going like, well, what if I'm successful? What does that look like? What if, so I love that part. But then I also love how you describe manifesting because that was absolutely my experience. And I call it money ain't a thing. So the first version, what I've noticed over the last kind of 15 years of living this and teaching this is the first version of manifesting is almost always a money ain't a thing situation where it's like the opportunity came to you or your daughter got in, which is saving you whatever, $1,500 to $2,000 a month in daycare. So a lot of people keep thinking like, I'm not manifesting unless I win the lottery, or I'm not manifesting unless like I get this giant inheritance check or whatever. And it's like, no, immediately you can start manifesting, and the universe starts bringing you these moments, experiences, opportunities, ideas that change your financial situation that don't have anything to do with a paycheck. And then eventually it gets to the place where like the paycheck changes and all of that stuff. But that first level, that first version, that can happen almost immediately once you kind of know what the process is and start practicing the process. And I love that. And it's rare that you hear that talked about in this space. So I love that we're like on the same wavelength like that because that in itself is pretty rare. Most people are still kind of like stuck in just the secret stuff, which a lot of that was very much like go drive the car, imagine you drive the car shows up in your driveway. And I was the same as you. I was curious and skeptical. I was like, I'm sorry, that sounds like a load of shit to me. Like that's never once happened to me. And so I had to like make my own version of it where I was like, this makes sense, this does not. How do I tangibly get this to work? And I love that. What was another thing? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say like that part right there of like I had to figure out what made sense for me. I think people dismiss manifestation and because of that same thing you were just talking about, that it's this grandiose thing where you win the lottery. And I think that when it comes to manifesting, one of my core things and the things that I teach on my podcast, my book is I love manifesting money. I'll do it all day. I'll teach
Yeah,
you how,
who doesn't, right?
but I think that I can manifest millions and millions of dollars, but there's no part of me that wants to be miserable. There's no part of me that wants to be absent. So, like for me, when I talk about manifestation, my big focus is on how I feel.
Yep.
I don't care about all of these things if it means I don't get time with my kids. And I don't care about all these things if it means that like I'm miserable doing it or doing a bunch of shit I hate. So
Yep.
I'm really, really particular when it comes to manifestation. I want to lock in exactly like how I want to feel first. And so obviously, if we go back to that point, my biggest battle was getting out of a depression that a doctor told me was genetic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're like, have you never heard of postpartum depression? Like, that does not have to just be, like that is not a genetic thing I have to live with for the rest of my life. Like, that's crazy.
Isn't that wild? And that's the thing is like people who love you and people who care about you and people in positions of power will tell you what's possible and what's not. And you still get to tune back in and decide if that's true for you. And at
Amen.
some point, I was just curious if it had to be.
Yeah.
And I started a practice of manifestation writing and I started writing myself. I know you do vision boards.
Yes, I
I'm
do writing too. Writing too. I have a life plan that you have to write it down. You have to.
I do a daily journal practice where I write a thank you letter to my future self
I
and or my
love
higher
that.
self or to God or to the universe. And I just say thank you as though the day exactly how I want to feel, how I want it to go has already occurred. And I'm just saying thanks for it.
I love that. I love that. I do that as part of my New Year's ritual, manifesting ritual, where I'm kind of like letting go of the past and creating the future. But I love it as a daily practice. That's really awesome. And if no one has, listeners, if you have not done this yet, there's something so powerful in writing a letter to your futures from your future self. Where you're in the life that you ultimately dream of in all the categories, and you're looking back and you're talking to yourself who's sitting here today, and you're looking at all the adversity that you might see today, or all the disappointment or the no's, or all the things that you want where you're at in this moment, and you're looking from the future back and you're saying, "Oh girl, I'm so glad you didn't give up. I'm so glad you didn't let that one little thing rock your world the way that you thought it was going to, because guess what? It wasn't that big of a deal and it led you to this." And just that has always helped me so much to be able to really see what's possible for my life and get into that feeling. You've talked a lot about feeling, and I think for me in the beginning, it was hard for me to understand the energetic aspect of manifesting. I'll be honest, because I came at this, back watching the Oprah Secret Show and stuff way back in the day, and was trying to figure it out. And the energy piece was obviously something that most manifesting experts were talking about, but they didn't really explain like how to get into the right energy. And that part was, I just couldn't get my head around it. I was like, I don't understand. Everyone's like, feel the feeling, feel the feeling. But if you're in a place of dire lack, and I started out on food stamps, I had literally nothing, I had to sell everything that I owned. And over the journey, I'm a single mom of three. So over the last 17 years of taking care of a family of four, there's been lots of ups and downs. There's been plenty of really high successes and not. So when you're in that space, it's it's so hard for someone to be like, just feel wealthy or just feel like free. And you're like, bitch, I'm just trying to like make sure we got a roof over our head, like, and so it's so that part always kind of frustrated me until I kind of evolved to the place where I understood energy a little bit better. So I know energy is something that you are really an expert in. And talk to us a little bit about how do we really access those feelings? Because it's one thing for someone to tell you you need to feel XYZ. But if you're feeling the opposite, how do you tactically get into a feeling of flow or a feeling of abundance or whatever it is that you want to feel?
That's a great question. And here's the thing, I want to demystify energy. Energy is just your mood.
Yes.
It can be that simple, right? So if you're like, It's like this intangible thing that I can't possibly access and find. It's just, if you can think about it, it's just, how do I feel today?
Yeah.
That's a great start. I'm a big fan of working with your set points. If, a couple things, right? I don't like the word abundance.
Mhm.
I don't feel that in my body when
Yeah.
anybody says abundance. Money, yes.
Yeah.
Abundance, but what is it? What
Right,
does that
right.
mean? Like, so the first thing I would ask somebody if they're like playing with manifestation and they're feeling detached from it, or they're in a reality that looks not at all like what they want it to look like, because I think that's a hard thing to manifest and then to go back to absolute garbage, to manifest and
Yeah.
then to get that electric bill in the mail. So if you're in that space, your job is to really just tune into yourself, see what words you actually can associate with. So I think there's a lot of power in the way you word things. So I love the word powerhouse. So when I was super duper insecure, super depressed, I was so fascinated by the word powerhouse. And I had somebody in my life that I would consider a powerhouse. And every time she walked in a room, I was like, whoa, you can just, like, she just
Yeah.
owned the room. And so I couldn't feel into it for myself, but I could feel hers.
I love that.
So I actually used my energy to spend a lot of time in other people's energy to start. Because if I couldn't access it in my own feeling, that was fine. But I could be like, oh, I can think about how this person makes me feel, and I feel and experience her energy. So I can borrow that. So that's
Yeah.
number one, like cheat code is, if you can't find it within yourself, spend time in the energy of the people who make you feel a little hyper, or who make you feel a little
hmm
giddy. And I'm a big believer with set points, right? So this is a really fun fact that not a lot of people know about me. My grandma, before she passed, she won the lottery.
Oh, wow.
Uh, I know, right? So nobody in our family, she like took small increments. So it didn't get like passed down or
Yeah.
anything, but she won the lottery. So therefore, there should be a belief in me that like
It's
winning the lottery,
possible. Yeah, it's
right?
about like magic is possible.
I cannot connect that in my person. I cannot connect that belief that I can win the lottery and have it feel like anything in my body. And so when you're thinking about what's possible for you, I'm a big dreamer, but I also like to take the dream and scale it down until I can start to actually get excited about it in my body. And
Yeah.
if I can't connect with it at all, I'll focus on something I can connect on. So there's been times where money has evaded me.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
been times where my relationship with certain people in my life has evaded me. And so there's been times where like I just can't imagine it getting better. And
Yep.
so I'll shift my focus to something that I can connect with, a different area of my life.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm curious if I can make this a little better, or I'm curious if I can take care of myself. When you're trying to manipulate energy, what you're actually doing is trying to connect it and embody it. And I always
Mm.
thought embodiment was just like a fun little word people say, but what it really means is like, I can kind of see this for myself and I can kind of picture myself in this life. And
Yeah.
what matters when it comes to manifesting and when it comes to energy is, what words are you using and do they associate it? And when you envision that for yourself, like if I say to a listener right now, like, can you envision making $100,000 this month? A
Yeah.
lot of people would be like, no, like I
Right.
can't feel that. That feels so outside of me. Can you envision making $500 more this month? I
Yeah.
think more people would probably say yes.
Right.
So our body is telling the truth at all times.
Yeah.
It's telling the truth through our gut feelings, through our knowing, through our inner responses. Actually, can we play a game?
Yes, I would love that. Yeah.
Okay, this is a fun game to like just learn your body's dissonance. Okay. So I want you, Sarah, I want you to think, and listeners, I want you to think about something you just love, like
Mhm.
unconditionally, no resistance. It can maybe be a family member or a pet or just a situation that you really love, or maybe your favorite book or moment or place. And I just want you to focus on that. And I just want you to tune into your body for a moment. And Sarah, like, what's going on in your body when you're thinking about the thing you love? What do you notice?
Mm. A sigh. Like that, like that, like I can breathe. You know what I mean? Like, that feels really nice. It's like a great exhalation. Like, relax into it, you know?
Yeah.
Feel
Now
soft, soft.
I'm gonna do you a little dirty and I'm going to have you focus energy on saying you hate that same thing I said you love, and I want you to tune right into your body when you say that.
Yeah, it just like wants to throw it right out. It's like, don't fuck with my joy.
Okay. So you can
Yeah.
go back to saying you love it because we don't want that
Yeah,
yucky vibe.
yeah.
But this is our body speaking to us about everything at all times. And sometimes it's loud, but you can use a practice like that to figure out where that happens on your body when it's a strong no, when it's not
Yeah.
when you can't believe the thing you say. So that's a
Yeah.
fun way too to feel like, am I like, is this something I can believe in? Is
Right,
this something
right.
that I am willing? And I always use the words open and willing to believe in. I don't care if you fully believe
Yeah.
anything. I just need you to be open and willing to be curious
Yep.
about it. And
I
so
love
when
that.
you're posing new beliefs, like that's a great place to do it, right? Is to feel the energy inside of your body because that's where we're manifesting from. I'm using the word body, I'm using the word energy, I'm using the word emotion, and I'm using the word belief. Like it's all inside of it. So anytime you
Yeah.
come back into your person, anytime you come back and anchor back in your body, you're going to just have so much more success at finding the right manifestations for you right now. And the cool thing is I used to be open and willing to believe I could have, more money or whatever
Yeah,
the
yeah.
case. And now I'm like, okay, I want to do 90,000 next month or,
Yeah.
and that feels like I can nervous system wise feel that in my body that that's going to happen for me.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. So I think the thing that I have noticed too, and I'm curious to get your take on this, is that from a mind perspective, our mind can be rewired
Yeah.
so honestly, quickly and easily if we're very intentional about it and also practice it regularly. You can't just be like one time, oh, I want to make 90,000 a month and great, I'm going to make 90,000 a month. You have to kind of layer in the new belief system or the words like you were talking about. Like to me, words are super, super powerful. They're predictors of what's going to happen. So putting those in, and I have a daily practice of saying my I am statements. And those I am statements are always aspirational. So they're not a description of who I am today, they're a description of who I'm going to be and who I'm transitioning into. And so I use that in every area, in finance and business, so I'm creating that next version of myself who is those things. And then over time, I've I've been testing this now for such a long time. Over time, you literally become the embodiment, like you said, where it's like that word that at one point did feel disconnected, did feel like, oh, that's a stretch, that doesn't feel comfortable, can, if you do the practice regularly, can be something you genuinely describe yourself out as in, a year from now or 6 months from now. It's the craziest thing. And so I think there's that piece of, I love the idea of finding something that you connect to more right away, so that your body and your mind isn't throwing it out immediately. But then I also think that there's this great thing that can happen if you stick to it too, where your belief can get in alignment. Like, have you noticed that too, where if something doesn't feel immediately energetically like a match, but it is something that you really want, that over time your mind and your body can start to make that connection?
Yeah, I think that you can do it. You can play
Yeah.
and you can see what makes sense and works for you. And again, your body's going to tell you one way or another. And
Right.
so I love, like, I listen to manifestation rampages all the time. That's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
I
Those are
do all
great.
the time.
On YouTube, you guys, you can go get them
Free.
easily, free, quickly. Yep. And just put it on the background.
And so, like, for me, what I think matters a ton is just new suggestions of different ways to think. So,
Yeah.
whether that comes from an I am statement, whether it comes from listening to a podcast, whether it comes from singing a song that has good words alongside of it, like
Right.
it doesn't matter. You can be manifesting at any given moment of any day. And
And you
so
are. Yeah.
everybody gets to pick and choose what that looks like. And I think for me personally, like I prefer to have that energy connected because otherwise it feels like it's got its separate identity from me.
Yeah.
Unless I can pull the energy from like a person that I know or
Right.
a maybe a podcaster or whatever the energy I'm trying to obtain is. So for me, like I'm very energetically dependent, but my human design is very open.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, in terms of human design, if that makes a difference, if you have a closed head or not.
Hmm.
That might be, for somebody who has a closed space, they might be able to pull off a robotic
Yeah.
affirmation,
Yeah.
have it tap in and click in a little bit differently than somebody who needs that open and needs to pull the energy in. So that's a thought too.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about intuitive, like what you mean by intuitive therapists. Like, what is some of the work? What's some examples of some of the work that you do with your clients, and how does that kind of help maybe shift or breakthroughs, or what does that look like?
So going back to our original story, I was in school to become a counselor. And so I got my master's. I started as a licensed mental health counselor working in a not-for-profit. And as I'm doing that, I'm looking at and understanding the secret. And then I start studying energy and I start studying intuition. And I'm down a rabbit hole now, Sarah. Like
Yeah.
I'm I have fallen off the cliff and I'm looking at this like I cannot tell people that they are anxious and going to be dealing with anxiety for the rest of their life if I don't believe that that has to be true.
Amen. Amen.
So I was like, okay, so how do I want to roll with this? Like, what do I want this to
Yeah.
look like? If I were to create a protocol that I feel like matters more. And I think that, let me rephrase that. I don't like how I said that. Counseling and traditional therapy have a very great purpose. And I think understanding your past and understanding why you are the way you are is fantastic. And there's a lot of very incredible therapists. And
Yes,
I
exactly.
love, I love to encounter people when they're ready to say, here's what happened, and here's where I am, and
And
here's
how
where
do
I
I
want
change
to
it?
go.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do I do different?
And what do I do differently?
Yes.
So I started teaching people, I always say I teach people how to trust themselves. I
Yeah.
teach people how to hear how their body speaks and how their intuition speaks so that when they make decisions, they have the confidence to make the decision, they have the correct energy to make the decision. Um, it's really fun for me to go in, like we'll do a guided meditation where I'll walk through and you'll talk out loud with me. This is
Love
partly
that.
based on arts work. But we'll go in and we'll talk to different energies that are sitting in your energetic field. And we'll just see what they have to say, see why they're there, what the purpose is, if they're willing to go. A lot of times we can move that. And I'm telling you, Sarah, like it's like almost instant when we can get rid of a big block that's associated with guilt from my childhood, from this
Right.
one particular incident that happened. And now we've opened up this space for receiving, right? So just as powerful it is to think something positive, it's more important and equally important, I guess, to have an energetic field that's open to receive. And so
Absolutely. Yeah.
when it's loaded up, so I do a little bit of everything with my clients. I'm obviously well trained as a therapist, but I really like to say, okay, actually, I did a energy clearing session for a salon last night. I went in with the employees and
I
the owner.
love that. I love that.
So they actually did vision boarding, and I was like,
I
let's
love
think
it.
about 2025 and anything we want to leave in 2025 so that when you vision board it,
Yes.
it has more.
Yes. Clear. It's clear.
Yeah.
And I'm such a huge believer in clearing your energy. I had an energy healing at the start of the year, new year. I think it was actually on the first. And it was so powerful because 2025 was a shedding year for me. It was
Yes.
very, I mean, difficult year on almost every possible level.
Or
But it was also, I felt it was the transformation happening. Like every now and then you go through
finally.
one where you're like, whoa, this, just hold on tight, close your eyes, like somehow, some way this is going to end and be in my favor. And so at the end of the year, I really felt that shedding, like just of so much that I carried my whole life and whatever. And then I wanted to do an energy clearing to just like make sure, on a conscious level, I did my work, but on a subconscious level, I want that work to be done as well. And it's just insane how my body reacts so quickly. Like I could feel it moving through my whole body. It was just so powerful and so incredible. And I also love what you say about energy or intuition. I've always said that if everyone is programmed with their own best life coach, there possibly is. Like we were all programmed with it. We were born with it. If we just stopped arguing with it, no one would ever need a freaking, I'd be out of a job. And so like if we could just get to the place of like knowing when it's our intuition that's talking versus the argument, that's happening with the intuition, because I think that happens to a lot of people. They don't know what voice is what. And most of the time, let's say you're dating or something and there's a red flag and your intuition is like, hello, hello, please hear me out. Please listen to this. You've been down this road before. Our almost always our instinct is to fight it, to argue with it, to be like, well, no, not this time, blah, 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 blah. So are there any tricks or tips on helping us understand what voice is what, if you will, so that I can get better and better at listening to it and then acting? I think when you get to a place where you're really in tune, you can act blindly on it. You're like, got it, heard it, done. But it takes a while to get to that spot. What can we do to get better at it?
It takes a while, and even with like deeply personal situations, it's still challenging, even
Yeah.
when you know what to do, right? So I think a lot of people confuse their intuition with fear.
Hmm.
I've never felt real intuition that's fear-based.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference between a calm knowing of like, this relationship really isn't for me. And you can use your body, right? You can use your body as a guide of posing different ideas and just see how it sits, see how your body responds. But the big thing for people with intuition is it drops in. It
Mm,
is not trail-led thoughts. It's not one thought leads to another. If you're actively thinking about it and you feel like it's intuition, it's probably not. It will often come as an aha moment, or like usually your intuition is best accessible when you're relaxed. So when you're in the shower, when you're
yeah.
driving in the car, when you're doing manifestation writing, that's when I get my biggest intuitive hits to like go call so and so or post this thing or share this email. Like those are coming out of the blue.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that intuition is fear-based, and I will die on that
100%.
hill.
Yeah.
And I invite my intuition in every morning. So I'm open and ready and willing to receive whatever you have for me today.
Yeah.
And how might you use me to help my clients to share whatever needs to be shared on this podcast? And so I'm very open with my relationship with the universe of letting that energy kind of speak through me. But I think the big thing is write it down. If you
Yeah.
feel like you have that nudge or that pull, or your eyes get pulled to something that they don't normally, you don't have to make meaning out of it. This is where people get messy with intuition, is they have this thing pop up and they want to make it mean something specific. I want you to just be the observer of it. And I always say it's like, did you ever play The Sims when you were a kid?
No, but my kids do. This is aging
So
me
like
right now.
Sims was like this computer game where you could like create
Yeah.
people's life, and you'd have like this little blue diamond above your head if you were active, right? So I always say when you write it down, when you invite it in, you're active.
Yeah.
The universe knows you're listening. And so I would say like if you get a gut feeling like, oh, like I just don't trust this person for whatever reason, you just write it down. And you don't have to tell anybody you wrote it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that when something happens, you have tangible proof. Society is not made it easy for us to trust our intuition.
Very true.
Intuition, even though every single person has it, and we are like feeling vibes off everybody all the time. We know what if we like
Yeah.
somebody, we know if we don't. We know if somebody's creepy. We know my daughter works at a like bar restaurant, and she was they got a new DJ the other night, and he just does bingo. It's not
Yeah.
like a live DJ, but she was like, I don't, something about him just isn't sitting right with me. I'm
Yeah.
like, pay attention to
Listen to it.
that.
Listen to it. Yeah.
He's like, well,
It's
there's no real reason, but that's the thing is there's no real reason. We don't know what it means, but
yeah.
we're just going to observe and respect that we had this feeling. And that's
Yeah.
such a good start of building a relationship with your intuition. Write
Yeah,
it
it's
down.
so interesting that you say that. Because when I did a solo trip to Europe for my 50th birthday this fall, and I told this full story on my solo podcast. I won't tell the whole story right now, but it was this really crazy moment. I was in Morocco, and for about an hour, I was very unsure if I was being kidnapped or not in the middle of the Moroccan desert. And there was this moment where all of a sudden these two men out at this hot air balloon space were like, hey, you need to get in the back of this SUV. And I'd come with like a dozen tourists and a tourist van. And suddenly my tourist van wasn't there anymore. And I was like, wait, what's going on? This does, no, everything. So when you're talking about society really influencing that, literally, as soon as I tell the story, people are like, oh, I don't like what you did here at all, because society has so told us you have to react in certain situations a certain way, period, end of story, can only turn out one way. So of course, in this moment, I'm like looking around and all of a sudden like everyone's gone and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Like, can we get my van? Like they don't speak any English. And so, of course, everything is flashing in front of my eyes, like every kidnapping scenario I've ever heard of, every horror story I've ever heard of, like all the people who told me, don't go to Morocco alone.
Yeah.
And I had this moment of, okay, my brain was like, you should probably panic now, like panic now. But then I was like, but how do I feel? And it was just this instant, like 10-second thought of like, but how do I feel? And what do I know? Those are the two instant questions as I'm standing in there with the door open and these guys going like, get in the car, get in the car. And I thought, I feel fine. Like,
Yeah.
my heart wasn't racing, my gut, which is where I feel everything. My gut will tighten almost instantaneously, like to the point where it's almost painful. Like I can feel it immediately
Yeah.
if something is off. And it wasn't at all. It was really calm. But my mind was like, you're insane. Freak out. Like, freak out. Don't get in this car. And then instantaneously, I was also like, but what do I know? And what I had known is that every single person I had interacted with in Morocco was amazing. Like, they were so kind and so genuinely trying to make me feel safe and comfortable everywhere I went. I think knowing that those stereotypes existed, so they wanted to really go the extra mile to make me feel safe and comfortable. And I was like, well, everyone is treating me like this. So why is this situation different? Is there anything happening right now that is different than that? And I've honestly felt so calm about it. I was like, all right, well, and also, what else am I gonna do? Like cause a scene and make this worse, or trust that this is okay. And they were actually looking out for me. Like it took about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours to figure out what was going on. But in the long run, they were trying to make me more comfortable. There was no room in the van. The SUV had air conditioning, the van didn't. Like they were actually really trying to take care of me. And that was such a massive lesson for me. Like it was the tangible lesson that my subconscious needed to go, wow, there's so many times you're fighting the thing that's good for you, when if you just stop for a quick second and listen to your body, listen to your intuition, and just trusted it, like you would be okay. And like I said, whenever I tell women, especially that story, they're like, I don't want to hear that. Like, you should not have done that. You're still insane to do that. It's like, what can you do? But it is so interesting how those two, like, if you can feel what's happening in your body and learn to trust it, and then you just start getting your own little proof points. You're like, hey, it worked for me that time, it worked for me that time, why wouldn't it work for me this time? I think that's important too.
And it's a good reminder that a lot of the times your intuition shows up as I don't know why, but.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm saying it's not fear-based, right? Is like your brain might be going and making meaning out of it,
Yeah.
but I really, really believe as long as I've worked with intuition that it presents as this calm energy. If we have time for a quick story, I'll tell you
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
I was in Charleston with a group of girlfriends for my friend's birthday, and we were going out that night. Things got kind of different because it ended up being nicer than it was supposed to be. So we stayed at the beach a really, really long time. It was supposed to rain. We stayed at the beach and we're like, okay, we're going to move our dinner plans around. And we moved our dinner plans around. We went back to the Airbnb, which was right off King Street, like right in the center of everything. And we walked outside, ready to go out for the night. And there's just this big, massive rainbow. And I just had this sense of peace, like this is
Yeah.
gonna be a good night. Okay. I had this like
Yeah.
just sense of like, I'm so supported right now. We get out on King Street, we go to this Mexican restaurant and have a really good dinner. And in the middle of dinner, this guy comes over to our table and he says, do not leave this restaurant because we were paying for the bill.
Yeah.
Like, there's a protest outside and they're throwing tear gas and there's like guns and like,
Yeah.
don't go out. Well, the next thing we know, there's just people lining and it's, this is we're
Yeah.
in the middle of something, right? There's people lining the windows, they're smashing the windows with bricks.
Jesus.
They're locking us inside. And finally, the guy who was the owner of the restaurant was like, everybody needs to like get out back and get to
Yeah.
safety. We ran out. In my intuition, because we were like, there's four girls, we cannot get to the other side to our
Right.
Airbnb. It's just chaos. Like it's chaos. We don't know who's got what's
Right.
happening. They're throwing all sorts of stuff. And we're like running out back, we're running down an alley, and I just see a car, and I'm like, that guy's gonna let us get in his car. And we just go up to this guy,
Wow.
and we're going like, I don't care where you take us, but can you just remove
Get us
us
out of
from the
here. Yeah.
chaos? This guy's like a little angel, and he was like calling every hotel for us on the way to try to find and take us over the bridge into Mount Pleasant. And he was like, if you guys don't find a hotel, because all the hotels were shutting down
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
and so he's like, if you guys don't find a hotel, I have a house and I'll go stay with a friend and you guys can
Oh.
have my house for the night. And I'm still in touch. This is like 5 or 6 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And um, and so we're still in touch. But the
Wow.
thing was, is it looked real horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never feared for my life in the logical sense that I did that night. I've
Right.
never been in a scenario like that where I was like,
Yeah.
I think people
We
are
don't know
shooting.
what's going to happen. Something
I have
like
no
horrible
idea
could
what.
really happen. Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a calmness in me and an intuitive directive in me that was like, I know what to do
Mm.
without thinking about it. And so
Yeah.
that's that. I don't know why, but I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I get in that guy's car. I don't know
Yeah.
why,
That was
but like,
exactly how it felt for me too. It was like it was peace. Like I don't know how else to explain. It was calm. It was peace. It was like you're fine. You're safe. And I think it's so interesting how our brain is so societally wired in certain situations that most people probably would follow the societal wiring and not listen to that. And honestly, that could have put me in a really precarious position. Had I become a Karen in that situation, like I could have been left in the desert or pissed off to men that didn't speak a word of English. Like either way, it wasn't going to go well, right? So I think like your point of intuition not being fear-based is really important because if you are someone who feels like you don't know your intuition all that well and you're trying to learn it, that is a great way. Because in both the stories we just told, I think societally we've been trained that the intuition is the voice that tells us to be scared. Right?
yes.
Like that would have been because everyone's like, listen to your intuition, don't get in the car. But and that's why for me in that moment it was like, but wait, my intuition isn't actually saying that. So I think there is definitely a misconception. And for sure it is there to protect you too. So I know for a fact that if that was a dangerous situation, everything in my body would have rejected it and I would have figured something else out. 100%. There isn't one part of me that doubts that. But my intuition could see what I couldn't and
Yep.
knew that I was not only safe but being trying to be taken care of. And so that I think understanding that it isn't it isn't the fear, and if it maybe if it was trying to protect you, let's say, you would unquestionably know that, you
Well,
know.
and it's the thing about intuition is that if it was trying to get you out of the situation, it would be in the moment, not predictive of the moment. Do you
Yeah, yeah,
like the fear or the urgency to get out of that situation and it wouldn't be happening in advance. That's not
yeah,
intuition.
right,
Intuition, and I love how Eckhart Tolle uh talks about it in The Power of Now is like it's the anxiety is the gap between what we're predicting will be in the future, but the future is just another now moment. And so it's
right,
that directive in that now moment. So when you're looking at your future and you're catastrophizing it, that's not intuition. That's never
yeah,
intuition. That's just your worry trying to control an outcome that may or may not happen and wasting in your energy preserves in the meantime. But
yeah,
if you can drop into the present moment and say, how am I feeling about this moment and tune back in? I'm a big, like, put your hand over your heart,
yeah,
rise and breathe and let that be true. And that takes practice, Sarah. Like we're talking about this stuff because you and I have been working on our intuition for a long time. It takes practice to learn how to hear how your intuition speaks because I don't get a
thousand
gut feeling.
percent.
Sarah gets a gut feeling. I
Yeah.
have a knowing that's really fleeting and then it comes back, right? And then Sarah has that twisting in her like
Very like dominant, yeah, almost
Oh,
physical, always in my gut specifically. Like it's very, at this point, it's very recognizable. But like you said, it was not 10 years ago. It wasn't to this level even 5 years ago. It wasn't even a thing I was aware of 20 years ago. So like
everything we're talking about is a skill set that can
a
be
hundred
cultivated.
percent. Thank you for saying that.
And so like I always say that even about like people who like do psychic readings for a living, like everybody has a little bit of that in them, right? We're all
Yeah.
reading people in and out. It's just a skill set people cultivate or don't cultivate. And so if we look at this area of our lives, it's not just do I have it? Do I not have it? How do
Yeah.
I strengthen it? How do I hear how mind speaks? And that's like part of what I really, really love helping people understand is like, how is your intuition speaking to you? And for me, like I talk a ton about feeling powerful in your life. Feeling powerful in your life comes with trusting yourself. You
Yeah.
can't feel powerful in your life when you're outsourcing all
Yep.
your other people. So it's about knowing that no matter what choice you make, A, I want you to make choices from a place of being intuitively aligned and really hearing what you really want and need. But just making decisions and feeling like I don't really care what the outcome is because I feel confident about it and I know I can handle anything that comes on the other side of that.
Amen. Amen. I love it. I love this conversation. Thank you so much for just sharing all of this wisdom. I think for women especially, this is so important, ladies. This is really, really important work that I hope you go down a rabbit hole to learn about or whatever your process looks like. And go follow Nichole. I'll put your all your links here in the show notes. But what are you working on right now? And what do you want everybody to know and where to send them to learn all the good things about you?
Yes, if you guys DM me, Sarah, I will give you some discounts to. I have free access to the online membership, the Comeback Club. I do a masterclass in that every single month. So if you DM me, Sarah, I will get you hooked up with the Comeback Club. But right now, I'm super duper passionate about helping people step into their personal power for the sake of being magnetic and drawing in
Mm,
all the opportunities and people. So I am working on my third book. To help you
love that.
design your energetic signature, all the components that really make up an energetic signature, and how we can be intentional about curating ours so that all of the right things just kind of like we talked about intentional manifestation and step-by-step manifestation. And that book will help people manifest sort of out of thin air. That's my
Ooh,
goal.
I love it. I love it. I will put all those links here in the show notes. And excuse me, everybody, go follow, go do some of this work. It pays off so quickly. You start to feel so different so quickly. I can't imagine my world without it, honestly. So thanks once again, Nichole, for being here. And everybody, until next time, get out there and thrive. All right.